Hello and welcome to the North Bank Meets. I'm your host for today, Steph. Our usual host, Holly, can't be here. He's in Cornwall on his holidays at the moment, which I'm led to believe is absolutely bucketing down with rain. So enjoy that, Holly. But today I am joined by a guest who's just finished appearing in Les Miserables on the West End. He's also been in various TV shows on Big Brother's Bit on the Side, Steph's Packed Lunch. He's appeared on the Raw Variety Show. Richard Osman's House of Games, Celebrity Catchphrase that apparently aired recently. He's an impressionist and features in various comedy shows on radio and screen. But most importantly, for us at the North Bank, he is an Arsenal fan. Welcome to the North Bank, Luke Kempner.
How you doing? Yes, very pleased to be here, Steph. I'm sorry for the listeners. I was 20 minutes late. I was trying to sort out a visa for a country I won't disclose because that is where I'm off to work next. In about a week and a half, but it's not out. It's not out, so I can't even say yet until the end of the month where I'm going. But yes,
or what you're doing,
or what I'm doing. Unfortunately,
wow.
It's very annoying because people will be like, "Oh, yeah, cool, man." But
what you'll have to do is you'll have to come back on when
Yes.
it's out and then tell us all about it.
I will.
We'll have some actual football matches to talk about as well.
Yes. Well, the clue is that the Arsenal games I'll be watching, I will have to be watching at about. If they're a Champions League game at 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah. And are you the sort of fan that will do that?
Yeah.
Oh,
I did. I mean, I've done it before. I toured America before, and I remember having to get up at 5:00 to watch games and stuff. But it's because also I'm a massive fantasy football fan. Like I take fantasy football very, very, very seriously.
Excellent.
So there is no way that I won't be getting up for those deadlines. You know, I've been playing proper seriously for 11 years with my pals, and I've been playing for about 14 years. And I'll never miss a deadline. But I even know the first deadline is going to be 2:30 in the morning. Oh God! But anyway, there we go.
Well, I'm going to set up a North Bank Pods league this year, so you'll
great.
duly get an invite for that.
Please.
But yeah, I've played for a long time. I'm a teacher in a school, so it's always good to like set up leagues, and that's a good way for lots of kids to get involved. Yeah, they absolutely love it. Although they do look at football in a very stats way. I've noticed that with young people.
Best way.
Now. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I've got a couple of questions sort of tailored for you just at the start.
Perfect.
And just because I know you've just recently finished your run in Les Miserables. Mm-hmm. So, what's your most miserable Arsenal moment? I'm going in
very
big.
Nice. Very nice. Straight away. It's a funny one, this one, because I always claim that this is sort of my favourite game ever.
Okay.
But it has a miserable ending. So this was the 1999. The Dennis Bergkamp missing the penalty, the Ryan Giggs goal. That is. But I feel like the second leg at Aston Villa. I cannot believe how long ago this is now. Like this, we're 26 years ago. Ow, that is so long ago. But I just remember it had everything. You know, Roy Keane was suspended, I think, or did he get sent off and did he get a second yellow? No, he was suspended for it. There was a Nicolas Anelka offside goal. There was an absolute screamer from David Beckham. There was, obviously Bergkamp missing a penalty. Then never took a penalty ever again. The last minute goal from Ryan Giggs. Like, all of it is so iconic. And it was like, and for me, like the rivalry has never been as good as it was when it was Arsenal Man United, and it was just. Yeah. Those players, just Stam and Vieira and all those boys, it was just wonderful. It's never ever been as good as that. And even though the Man United Arsenal rivalry sort of evolved even over the next sort of 5 to 6 years of that time, I feel like that first iteration was the first couple of seasons I really got involved in. Like in 1998, I watched a bit because a friend of mine took me to a game, and I was only 10. And then that next season, that 98-99 season was my first season. Like we all remember our first international tournament. Mine was France 98, and like the same for this. Like my first season 98, 99 was the one that I just remembered. You know, I could tell you that Gilles Grimandi scored against Coventry, where I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you like what happened in the game against Leicester this season. But that season, I just remember, and I wrote every single score. Anyway, so my most miserable moment was Ryan Giggs breaking our heart, and also then, you know, we went on to lose the league on the last day of the season. As well, and so yeah, I'll go for that Ryan Giggs goal.
Well, our host Holly, it's a regular sort of theme that comes up on our pod about his trauma of the days of Man United. Man United are his most hated club, and he would absolutely agree with you that is such a miserable moment, because he always talks about the fact that we could have done the double, but they ended up doing the treble, and it was just, you know, it was so close. I'm not sure he would overly agree with you being almost like your favourite game, or a quite. It did have everything. When you step back and put your neutral hat on, absolutely, it did have everything. So I tend to agree with you. So you've sort of hinted there that 98 was the first season. So what was it that sort of triggered that start? Where did it all begin?
You, like my friend at school, Alex Gallagher, who used to live down the road from me, and I'd go round his house on a Friday night, and we would play headers and volleys in his room, and he had Arsenal stuff on his wall. I remember he had I vividly remember he had a David Seaman signed picture on his wall where he was wearing like a purple goalkeeping kit, and he used to go with his dad. And his dad used to run a coach company that did day trips up to, but they would organise coach trips up to Selhurst Park. So I went to see Wimbledon Arsenal at Selhurst Park, and it was my first ever match was when the floodlights went out halfway through a game.
Oh yeah,
and we had to replay the game, and it was all down to like a Chinese betting company that betting on it. Anyway, so that was my first ever game, and so I sort of fell in love with it then. And then they just basically said, "Oh look, you know, if you ever want to come to a home game with us, you know, we drive up on the home games." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to, please." So then they took me, and then my first home game was Arsenal Sheffield United when Carnu scored that very controversial
throw.
I think it got Parler threw it on. Overmars knocked it in, and Carnu kicked it in, and it was, and then we replayed the game. So I felt like every single game I was involved with had so much controversy. But a bit like that moment in Viva Pitch when he sort of says that first time you walk up and into Highbury, sort of walk up and then you go down the stairs, and I still vividly remember seeing the pitch and just being like, I just couldn't believe it, you know, and it was magical, and that was what I fell in love with in 1998. Yeah.
So are there any other controversial games that you've been to? Any doping scandals?
I was at the away game, Sheffield Wednesday, when Paolo Di Canio pushed the referee over. That's that same season. I just was like, why is there controversy? And then I was just like, I was thinking there must be controversy in every single game I was at.
This is what it's always like.
Yeah. And that same season was like, I went to the Champions League games where we were playing at Wembley. But all my memories of that is that I couldn't see it because it was so far away. I was so small, and I couldn't see. I remember we played Barcelona, so it was like Rivaldo's Barcelona. I think we lost 4-2. That's what I mean. Like my memory of this season is ridiculous. And I think we played Panathinaikos and we won 2-1, and Adams and Keown scored. And I was like, oh, that's controversial because it's the two centre-backs scoring. And I think we played a Swedish club called IAK Solna. But your listeners will go, you're wrong on that, actually, Luke.
Probably.
And I think we played Fiorentina, Batistuta's Fiorentina. But I just remember not really being able to see much of it because it always happened down the other end.
So in terms of those early years then, who were the players that first sort of grabbed your attention? Who were your first heroes?
I always wanted to go for players that not everyone would go for. So as in, like, I always liked here's some players that I've had on the back of my shirt. Silvino, number 16, had him on the back
quite exotic.
Had on the back of my shirt. Pascal Segan.
That's less exotic.
I've always liked it, and then I saw like on the pre-season game the other day, we've got a player called like Rojas Fulson Piliachenko. where I'm just like, that's the most letters that's more than Venegor of Hesseling. Like I really want that on the back of my shirt. But I think he's about 15, and I think there's something weird about getting a 15-year-old on the back of your shirt.
Yeah, I'm sort of with you there.
So I'm a big fan of Silvino, but players back in the day. I mean, Tony Adams, man. Like, I was always sort of the tail end of Tony Adams' career, and I saw his 500th appearance in 2002, just before he sort of retired. But I just remember just like that kind of War of the Rovers, like just an absolute captain. So like Tony Adams, I really fell in love with Tony Adams because I just like, he loves it as much as I do. And like Anelka broke my heart, man. Like when Anelka left, I just thought he was the most wonderful player. He was so fast, lethal in front of goal, so cool, enigmatic, so I loved Anelka at the time. And so that sort of era, I still can't believe how much heartbroken I was when Anelka left, because I just thought he'd betrayed me, sort of thing. He was only about 18 or something.
He was a child. On the names on the back of the shirts, a friend of mine, John, we take the mick out of him because he's got a Senderos shirt.
Oh, superb.
But this is the thing. He got it before we then had that run to the Champions League final. And so he was like, see? Told you.
Exactly.
Champions League final. You all laughed at me.
I never had that moment with my Pascal Segan shirt, to be honest.
Funny that.
You ever never had that? We're talking about Les Mis, the most famous story of redemption of all time. I don't think Segan had that, nor Silvino, actually. But I always wanted to go a bit rogue. I've got a Tierney shirt, but I don't know, that's not as rogue. But I've got.
He's more of a cult hero, yeah.
And I've got a Torreira shirt.
Again, another cult hero. He had that one moment top off with
That's
the
it.
with
I
the
bought it the
Spurs
day
game.
after. Come on.
When I found out we were signing a small, feisty Uruguayan like DM, defensive midfielder, I was like, yes, please, let's have that. And he was okay.
I still can't believe what happened to him. I swear I never saw him drop in form, but then that's because I don't watch training. But I just was like, what happened to that guy? I loved him. He was what we needed.
Never quite worked, did it? Or never sort of favoured. No, absolutely.
And
right.
in true Arsenal fashion, a player that's bang in form, we managed to make sure that he is sold for £1, and we've had to pay that £1. Is what usually happens.
And with Segon, I don't know if I saw him too much in the flesh when he played for Arsenal, because I wasn't going to matches at that point. But I saw him in an Arsenal Legends versus AC Milan Legends game. Superb. And a friend I went with, like, Segon was the best player on the pitch.
Really?
And me and my friend were going, oh, maybe we were wrong about Segon. And then we had to remind ourselves, like, they're all like 40s, 50s now. Like, this is misleading when we shouldn't be hoodwinked by the idea that he was really, really good.
Well, it was I think it was like, he was French Defender of the Year. He was French Defender of the Year. So everyone was like, right, we're getting in the French Defender of the Year. But then that's starting to be my slight worry with Gyökeres being the Portuguese striker of the year. And then you look at some other Portuguese strikers players in the Portuguese league strikers who've done very well. And you're like, oh God, it could be Darwin Núñez.
And it used to be the Dutch league.
Right.
We would players from the Dutch league who had like banged in 40 goals. Was it Alfonso who signed for like Middlesbrough in the late 90s?
Yeah.
And he'd scored like 50 goals in Holland and then didn't score at all in the Premier League. I always get that kind of thing. And then Suarez kind of booked the trend. Someone we had on recently on our North Bank Meet series cited Marouane Chamakh.
Oh, yes.
Signed from Bordeaux. I think still holds the record most consecutive goals in Champions League games. 8.
Really?
With Bordeaux. Messi never did that. Marouane Chamakh. Who knew?
I always think with Marouane Chamakh, he got a bit of a hard deal because, like, when he came in, Robin van Persie was injured and he was like the main guy, and he actually was great. Yeah. Like he started really strong, and then once Van Persie got fit enough, then Chamakh I think he's just a player that needs to be playing all the time.
I think that's true. I think it's just a strikers thing.
Yeah,
I think when we think of all the super sub strikers, whether it's, I don't know, Javier Hernandez at United or Solskjaer, they're the kind of strikers that are good enough to do a job, but they're not angling for a start, because strikers need that consistency and they need to feel like the main man. I guess as a fan from a distance.
Yeah.
Okay, then. So just because we're talking about sort of favourite players, current crop.
Yeah.
Who in this sort of Mikel Arteta era, as I'm going to call it, is your other standout players for you?
Well, we sort of already mentioned him, Tierney. I was very sad to see him go.
As was I.
I really liked Tierney. I mean, I'm a bit sort of now. I'm a bit like I like that sort of one of your own sort of thing. So I love Saka. He made I mean, I was really gutted to see Smith Rowe go, and I just still think that song and that moment when we all sort of came out of the era of 15 years of sort of, not misery, but years where we weren't challenging.
Frustration.
And suddenly we were challenging again. And it was at the heart of it was Smith Rowe and Saka. Yeah. And we had that wonderful song. And I remember, I think it was a game where in that run, whenever it was, not last season, season before, we beat Man United in the last minute. I think Nketiah scored. And I just remember looking down at the fans below where my season ticket is. The fans below me are the ultras, and I just remember looking at these young guys and just going this is your moment that I had when in 2002. I was just and I was welling up because I was and at the heart of it, it's these young English lads that have got Arsenal, coursing through their veins, and there's something about that that makes me so passionate. And I love Declan Rice. Even I was just looking on Instagram this morning, and he's got a picture with Max Down, and he's like, I got my new golf partner, him and Norgard, and I love that. I feel like he's such a captain.
Yes.
Declan Rice is going to be the captain of Arsenal, I have no doubt. And I mean, how lucky are we to have that? That just wasn't happening at Arsenal for 15 years, and so it's an exciting, positive, wonderful time.
I think you've sort of echoed a little bit of between Declan Rice and Tony Adams, where you could argue their best quality is leadership on the pitch. So, yes, they're great footballers, but boy, do you need that kind of character in the team.
You really do, and it's quite a sort of British attitude thing. Yeah. In that, I'm a big cricket fan, and I love Ben Stokes, and I loved, back in the day, I loved. Freddie Flintoff, and even from the Australian side of things, you sort of Shane Warne and this kind of these people that just go, no, I'm going to grab it, I'm going to do it. I remember Beckham, when Beckham sort of had his, after his fall from grace, which when you now go back and watch documentaries about David Beckham, it's pretty pathetic how we treated that guy. Yes. Because he got sent off when he was 20. But that's what the world was like in 1998. But he had this redemption arc where he just became this most unbelievable player. I think he was second in the Ballon d'Or. And he was incredible. And he just was that thing of just do you know what? I'm going to do it. And, Henri had it, Saka has it at times, Rice, that Real Madrid game, Rice had it, and he's had it at other times. So, yeah, I love Deck, as they call him. Deck. I love Deck.
Deckers.
Yeah, Deckers.
I mean, on the Beckham thing, like that, I've fallen away from following England as much as I used to when I was a lot younger, in my sort of teens and 20s. But that Greece, the qualifier game, that he just literally, that is a grabbing the game by the scruff of your neck kind of performance. And I was funny enough, I was watching it on my own, and I still went absolutely apeshit.
Really?
Because it couldn't be contained.
Me and my mates broke a porcelain fish. That was on the side. It was about 8 of us in my mate's bedroom. We're all sat on his bed watching it. And when Beckham's, I mean, even that, you talk about following England, falling away from following England. Agreed. We were watching the qualifier.
Yeah.
To get into the 2002 World Cup, I believe, and we're watching England versus Greece. If that was now, and England might not qualify, I honestly probably wouldn't even watch it.
Same.
And then we're all on the bed. We'd all gone round to watch it, and we went so mad we broke a fish. But what a moment, And I feel you rarely sort of see those players that just go, I'm going to do it now. And that's, I'm sure, because football has changed in the past 20 years. But yes, I do like those sort of real leaders on the pitch. And I feel like Odegaard, not this season, but the season before, was doing it. So I'm just praying that hopefully this season we can sort of see the best of Odegaard again.
That's got to be a form thing, I think. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we sort of mentioned Beckham, what about non-Arsenal players? Who would catch your eye from either around the Premier League or international football?
So sort of like of recent times,
You go as far back as you like, or currently it's up to
of
you.
all time. Okay, I would say that if I'm going back to the sort of era where I started watching, um, it was hard to like any Man United player, because everything about them made you hate them.
Is there a book coming?
I'm trying to think if there is. I'm just sort of talking as I'm trying to think. Is there a but? I mean, I loved Beckham. I wanted to be
Right.
Beckham, like all young lads probably did. And I loved his sort of stylish ness, sort of on and off the pitch. So I always really liked Beckham. And I suppose. Do you know what? I can't say I like a Man United player. I can't bring myself to do that.
Well, my just to say mine. So, and Holly hates the fact that I say this, but when I first sort of was aware of football, we didn't have Sky Sports, but every now and again you'd see bits and bobs on Match of the Day or whatever, and I was always taken by Cantona,
Okay,
and it was purely just the swagger. Like he was a character. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know he played for Man United and hate Man United, as much as the next Arsenal fan. But something about the swagger and the collar turned up.
Oh,
I've always
yeah.
loved a shirt with a collar for that reason. Something about that swagger was kind of.
He's
take
slightly
your eyes
before
off.
my time, Cantona. Slightly before my time. Here's a controversial one. I quite liked watching the Tottenham Pochettino team.
Okay, that is
So,
quite
when it
controversial.
was, and I'm not saying I wanted them to do well, but it was the first time ever in my life I was watching, and I'm slightly worried that Thomas Frank might be the new era of Tottenham. But then, how many times have we said that? But I remember that team, that Pochettino team, when Dele Alli was flying, and Kane and Son, and and they were all in my fantasy team as well. And I remember just watching that team, just being like, you can hate Tottenham as as an entity, but you can't hate the way this team's playing. It was exciting football, and it was young English lads, and and Heung-min Son as well. And I don't know, something controversial, but I quite liked how good they were.
I'll throw in a bit of controversy myself in that there's a couple of things like Dele Alli aside, they were a hard team to dislike. Like
Yeah.
I dislike Harry Kane because he does seem so sort of nice, if slightly bland.
Yeah,
Christian
yeah.
Eriksen seems like a nice guy.
Yeah.
Like Luka Modric has turned into one of the best footballers in the world ever.
Exactly.
But seemed perfectly sort of nice. There were a couple in there actually. I mean, Danny Rose, and so on and so forth. But like you say, and also the way Pochettino sort of built that team, there are echoes with what Arteta's doing and what George Graham did in the era, before I sort of even started following, where what you do is you get in a load of young players to offset, some of your more experienced players, and you mould them and you shape them into hardworking, skillful, very committed, like young men. And Arteta's certainly done that and is doing that at Arsenal, and Pochettino had that going certainly at Spurs. I'll hold fire on Frank. He's such a nice guy. I'm not sure the signings they've made
No.
sort of play into that as much. It all depends what he goes with. He's a very data-driven manager. I mean, that was the whole Brentford thing, wasn't it? So, I hope it doesn't work out for him. To be honest,
do you know what? I was so gutted they didn't keep Big Ange, mate. Yeah, I just sort of thought that Ange in a season post winning the Europa League,
you can't help but go into the accent.
with the signings they would have made, that would have been the biggest car crash Spurs would have ever gone through in the Champions League. And it was just him, let's go off the vibes, mate. Like, it would have been unbelievably brilliant. So I was so gutted, and I knew all the Tottenham fans that pretended they were gutted are lying. Like, because I've got a lot of Tottenham friends, and they were like, "Oh, Big Ange, man." I'm like, "You hated Big Ange.
Yes.
Don't pretend that." Honestly, I've tried to be really magnanimous in Tottenham winning a trophy, and tried to be good for you guys. You've been through a lot. I've got a lot of Tottenham mates. I'm like, happy days. But some of the behaviour of some Tottenham fans, and I don't suspect they're listening, but if you know anyone, please pass on my thoughts. It's like you can't keep going on about winning a European trophy without understanding how you won it. Like, you know how you won it, not even just the final. Like, if a team had won the final and played like that, you'd just consider it like, God, you got lucky in the final. You played Bodo Glimt in the semi-final. Like, you're the first Europa League where the Champions League don't drop down. Like, behave, man. Right? I was just, honestly, I was saying, the fact they're in the Champions League, like, they do not deserve, like, oh, I can't, honestly. That it's wound me up so much, and that's a joy. That's what they want. That's what they want. That's what they want me to do. But it is really. I thought I was like, good for you guys. Happy day. I don't feel like that now. I think it's pathetic, and they should all be embarrassed. Any of them that are celebrating.
Well, you're right in the fact that they don't listen to the long form pod, but boy, do they get involved in the comments when we post clips on TikTok.
Good.
Boy, yeah. I mean, I might put the odd rage baity hashtag on there to lure them in and see what they say. But
get them. Come along to my gigs. Funny. Happy days.
Right. So you dripped into a Ange Postecoglou impression there.
Right,
so I did want to ask you this at some point, because I first heard you appear doing impressions on the Now Show on Radio 4.
Oh, yeah.
So what I wanted to ask in relation to that were, and this primarily can be Arsenal related, but, you know, I'm happy to do the wider football as well. Yeah. Who are your favourite voices? Not even necessarily just to do impressions of, but just voices in football. Who are the ones where you think, oh, they've got a really distinctive voice or a funny voice, whatever it might be?
Well, it's always good. The trouble with football is that as much as it's obviously incredibly popular, the players that transcend into the sort of general zeitgeist of who people know is actually quite small. Even the same with the managers, you know, look, I can do an Arsene Wenger impression, and we can be here, and I can do it in a gig, and if people are watching, maybe you have 2 to 3 people who know who he is. But will it be the whole team? I don't know. The whole room? I don't know. So, like, it's difficult with that, like, because that Arsene Wenger was one of the first impressions I ever did, even as like a 14-year-old. I think the moment my voice broke, I was trying to get down there, maybe. But you know, not everyone would know him. So, but he's sort of there, and he's still, look, it's quite a funny voice. I like to be, I always answer questions. So I say, is this an Arsene Wenger impression? Yes. Is this a little bit outdated? Yes. Should I try and do a different voice now? No. So like that in itself is quite a funny, idea. So then you get players like Harry Kane, like,
you can't not laugh at Harry Kane's voice, and you've got to try and do it in as most non-offensive way, which is hard with the Tottenham player. But Tottenham and comedy sort of go together. You can't not laugh at his voice.
So he's one of the ones that even if I do in a for your listeners that don't know much about me, like I'm an impressionist and I write one-man shows, which sort of involve stand-up, and sometimes they're just a whole parody of my latest show is gritty police drama, the one-man musical, which I did for a couple of years, which had 60 impressions, 60 minutes, one murder. But involved in that, there was a whole scene on the docks where, because it was sort of based a bit like an episode of Line of Duty / Happy Valley sort of thing.
I'm with you.
But on the docks, like you had Jurgen Klopp was the Jurgen. I look a bit like Jurgen Klopp today. I with the cap, the glasses. So he was the kind of leader of the gang. And so I had him, and then I had Roy Keane. It's just doing his job. A lot of these people, they don't know what they're saying. They're doing their job. And then so he was the heavy, or as Jurgen Klopp called him, das Kumpf, and das crazy Kumpf. And then you had. I had Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, who were sort of the guys that were, they were the guys that were sort of, building the drugs. I actually disagree with you there, Gary. You always disagree with me. No, I don't always disagree with you. You always disagree with me. Well, I disagree with that. Well, I disagree with that. So I sort of had a little bit of like the two of them chatting to each other. So it's sort of anyone that transcends and just people really sort of that everyone would know. Where Arteta's a little, I like doing Arteta, but it's a little bit difficult to do because he doesn't try. Not so many people know exactly what he sounds like. We've obviously got the Amazon documentary. They're fucking standards, guys. You want to play Champions League? You want to play fucking Champions League? You know, you sort of. It's as well as people know those clips. So yeah, loads.
Because there's generations before. I mean, he's obviously way before my time, my dad's generation. But Jimmy Hill. But even as a kid growing up, I sort of knew the Jimmy Hill impression. And so some of those voices sort of carry over, and it would have been then sort of Des Lynam maybe, and some of the presenters come.
Well, you always had John Motson. He was the sort of one that people would always enjoy. And I like John Motson. You know, he was one of the first commentators that I ever enjoyed. And there is something about him that is so, equivocally about football, isn't it? So I miss the voice of Motti. And I quite like that Barry Davis. I can't really do it. Barry Davis. I like what's that? What's his famous one? Look at his face. When he goes, look at his face. Just look at his face. So I do like those old ones. I always liked, and it's an impression that I heard as a kid, but, Alex Ferguson one,
unbelievable.
There's absolutely no doubt about that. Absolutely no doubt about that. Was the thing you'd always say. And Alan Hansen as well, the old Alan Hansen impression. One of the first, I worked with Alistair McGowan, and he used to have Alistair McGowan's football back chat. And again, if your listeners don't
watching
know that
over
show,
and over,
go back and watch that, man. It was so funny. And Alan Hansen, and then you had what's his name, Mark Lawrenson. So, oh no, it's quite boring. I don't know if I enjoy that. Thanks.
Tips
loads.
into who's the northern writer?
Alan Bennett.
Alan Bennett is a little touch of the Alan Bennett's about Lawrence.
It is a little bit Alan Bennett, yeah. And also Gary Lineker as well. Try not to do much of Gary Lineker because his voice is a bit boring.
Well,
although I love Gary.
We all love Gary. No, absolutely. Yeah. So in terms, I don't know where I've gone with that. Then.
Sorry, I don't know. You asked for voices. I gave you a
now.
cocktail.
Thank you very, very much for that. What about then? I mean, funny voices as part of comedy. What about funny moments and events? I mean, you talked about being at controversial events and things like that because we at the North Bank, we're not into getting angry about things too much, and we try and look at the lighter side of football because ultimately it's a fun hobby and a pursuit of ours.
It's entertainment.
So what are the funny moments that stand out for you? These can be off the pitch, on the pitch. We're talking post-match interviews. We're talking fan behaviour. Anything that stands out. What gets you a laugh at football?
I think Alan Pardew, I'd say, is one of the funniest things.
Just Alan Pardew.
Just Alan Pardew in general. I can't. There's not many. He's just funny.
Is it the
his
dance
dancing?
He did,
the dancing's massive, right?
Is it saying "shut your noise, you silly old c word" to the Pellegrini?
Yeah. He also squared up to Wenger. It's Pardew is just funny. The 7-year contract. Remember, he got his 7-year contract at Newcastle
because he got them into the Europa League.
Yeah. Pardew's funny. I can't not enjoy Pardew. Other funny people I can't I've liked it when we tend not to have so many funny players like Aboué and like Ray Parlour and I miss
Aboué.
I loved Aboué. Also a good player who sort of gets tarnished with he was an idiot, but he was a good player. I liked Parlour's story is always amazing. I just feel like we're not getting as many of those characters anymore. Jimmy Bullard, But
it's hard to
up
see
there.
the likes of Saka in a few years doing the dinner circuit and talking about, I don't know, filming
Igor Stepanovs to signing for Arsenal. You just don't get those now.
No,
and
absolutely.
I can't imagine Arteta's much of a laugh, to be honest with you. I love him. I love Mikel, and very proud he's our manager. But would I want to go for dinner with Mikel? I don't know. I think that could be quite intense, really.
Well, I mean, was it the All or Nothing documentary where he was barbecuing at home with and having a kickabout with his sons in the back garden? I do think he would be very different. He's got this.
Do you think?
I'm sure he switches. I'm sure he switches, and he's just the life and soul of the.
But how do you think he'd treat if you turned up 2 minutes late? Do you think he would still barbecue?
Oh, I wouldn't be late.
Kickabout with you?
I would. No,
that's what I mean.
Not.
You turned up scared shitless. You wouldn't want to get anything wrong. You'd start eating before everyone sits down. It's like, do you want to fucking eat in my fucking house? You'd be sent out.
Which is the opposite of the aura that Wenger had, because they all nicknamed him Clouseau, didn't they?
Oh,
Clumsy Clouseau, because he would
Wenger.
like drop things and like
I've
get
met-
lost on the way to training and stuff
Oh,
like that.
I love him. I've met Wenger. I met him.
wow.
I was at the basically. So I did a gig for the Arsenal Foundation,
Brilliant.
and the one of the directors at the time invited me to the director's box. And a couple of weeks later, and she said, "Oh, you must do your Arsene Wenger impression to Arsene. He'll love it." Right. So,
Well, how
I'm
do you
sat in
feel
the-
about that though?
Oh, horrendous! Like
Okay.
I was sat in the director's box. She'd not only made me do it to Arsene Wenger, so I was sat there. Right, we're going around, and she's like, "Oh, this is Pat Rice," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know Pat Rice is." And she's like, "This is Pat Rice," and he's like, "Hello there, nice to meet you." And she's like, "Oh, do your Arsene." And I was like, "Oh, look, it's fantastic to see you again, Pat. Usually you're sat next to me, yes." And he's like, "Oh, that's very good, like that." And I was like, and like meeting, honestly, like me, and then like. Martin O'Neill was there as well. Did it to him. He didn't find it funny. At the time, it was like even Gazidis was there, and Raul Sanyehi, and who was the other guy that came in?
Oh,
the guy from
begun with a V.
not Venkateshan, the guy,
Venkateshan.
the guy we got from Dortmund, who was there for about 2 minutes.
Oh, I can't. Yeah, I know what you mean, but I can't remember. His
Anyway,
name.
that guy
Yeah.
was there, and so there was like me, and it's no, Wenger was still the manager at this point, and so I was like meeting all these guys, and I was doing my impression, and they were all. There was a slight hint of they don't really like Wenger. Like there really was this slight hint of like, yeah, he's a bit of a pain in the ass for what we're trying to do, because they were the sort of the new guys that had come in. And it was the start at the end. It was that same season, I think, Wenger went. But then, anyway, so that was the sort of negative side. But Wenger came up. So, like, it's about 15 minutes before the game started. Wenger comes up. We've had this, like, incredible dinner. And I see him walking around. I couldn't believe it. Like, my heart was pounding out of my chest. Not because I was going to have to do the impression. I just couldn't believe it.
Wenger.
He's there. And he's so tall. And he's there, he's there in real life. And he's go around, he shakes everybody's hand, gives him his time, and gets to me, and she was like, "Oh, Arsene, this is Luke. He did a comedy gig for the Arsenal Foundation." He's like, "Oh, Luke, nice to meet you." And she went, "Oh, he does an impression of you," and he went, "Mm-hmm," like that. And I went, and she went, "Oh, you must do it." So I sort of just went, "Oh, look, very nice to meet you. Good luck for today. I think it's going to be a top result." And he just looked at me, and he went, "Hmm." And then we got a picture together where I can tell his eyes are ever so slightly not looking at the camera, and that forever will haunt me, that picture. But I do have it. But she did say to me, she was like, his hearing isn't the best.
No.
So, but you know what? All of it was still glorious. I shook his hand. He was
Yeah.
very nice to me. We took a picture, and I met Wenger. Like that's forever. That's the dream.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, man.
Brilliant. So we round off with just a couple of things. We normally finish with some quick fire questions, but before I get to that, we're recording this in the summer 2025. So hopes for the future. It could be next season. Are you going to keep going with your season ticket as work permitting, I guess, and all those sorts of things?
Yes. So I've had my season ticket now for about 5 years, but I always, interestingly, it was after those gigs I did for Arsenal, because I managed to get bumped up the waiting list. I was like in an 8-year waiting list, and they were like, "Oh, we'll sort that out."
I was on it for 10. Don't worry.
Really?
Yeah,
I know,
absolutely.
honestly. So I feel very fortunate that I think I was on it for about 3, and I lived in North London at that point as well, literally about half an hour's walk. Anyway, so yeah, 2017, so about 8 years now I've been a season ticket holder. Anyway, yes, I'll be keeping my season ticket, absolutely. Hopes for next season. My negative side view of it is that I feel like we're a season too late with all these signings. I think if we'd have done it last season, mate, I know PSR, PRS, whatever it is, maybe we could have done it last year. Probably couldn't. But I look at the other signings. I look at the way the other teams have strengthened. I look at the sort of fortune we had with Rodri getting injured, and I fear that last season was our best chance. Doesn't mean we can't do it this year, but it's going to be a lot harder to do it this year than it would have been last year if we'd had signed the players that we're signing this summer. I am still very positive. I'm not negative about how Arsenal were last year, and I find it. I really struggle with people that are so negative about Arsenal for finishing second again, because I'm like, where have you been? Like, this is cool. Like, we're in the semi-finals of the Champions League, and actually played pretty well with half our team out against the team that won it, the team that spanked the other team in the final. Like, we're really good. We're really, really good, and we've now signed some really good backups. I still feel like there's a little bit of work to do, and I'd still be interested to see how it's all going to gel together. But I'm excited. That term was like Josh Cronkite, I would say, be excited. So, like, but I am excited for next season, and I'm positive, and I think we're going to challenge along with Liverpool and Man City, and that's brilliant. How cool's that? Because it wasn't like that for years. Yeah. So my overall view is excitement, and I can't wait to watch the games at 4 a.m.
I feel last season, what was disappointing was just the way we kept sort of being knocked back. I think it sort of killed a lot of momentum and positive feeling. But when I think of some of the highs of last season, they're some of the highest highs of my life.
Oh God, yeah. That Real Madrid game is up there with, if I was naming my top 5 Arsenal moments, that Real Madrid game would be up there.
Could you do it? I mean, literally off the top of your head, obviously no prep, but like if Real Madrid, they don't have to be in order or anything like that.
The Arsene Barcelona moment.
Yeah.
Will Tour at Old Trafford.
Yes.
I would say, here's a funny one, that Danny Welbeck goal against Leicester City.
Oh God, yeah.
I thought we were going to win the title when that
we all did.
That's 4, and I would say, I guess we've probably got to go with winning at White Hart Lane, the Tottenham White Hart Lane one. That was just amazing.
Good. Well,
the 2004, not just winning at White Hart Lane. You couldn't pick one of those moments. There's about 500.
We have done it a couple of times.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Right. So what we always do, we always finish with these quick fire questions. So it's a choice, one or the other.
Right.
What we do, we've got 10 of these. So just, go with your gut. First one, red or yellow?
Red.
Home or away?
Home.
Journey or destination?
Journey. 100% journey.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sort of plays into what you were just sort of saying about knowing where we were. We're second, sure, that's disappointing.
This is the thing. Like, I don't feel like, how can you be a football fan and just care about? It's like with sorry, I'm going to go back on Tottenham again. Do. But Tottenham fans who are just like, it's all about winning the trophy, but it isn't, because you're shit. like look at how you won a trophy. Like, and it's just like, how could it? And also, it's like, if you're just about trophies, then it's like, what, 4 people can be happy? Like 4 teams can be happy?
That's what I said.
It's ridiculous. Like, the football is about moments, and like that's why it's so brilliant. For the 92 teams, is because anyone can have a moment on any given Saturday. I know. Games hardly ever played on a Saturday now, but you know what I mean. It's like football has to be about the journey.
Yeah, and it's like all this celebration police kind of like vibe
God.
that's going around. Can you imagine, like, Arsenal playing Man United on the opening day of next season, and someone just stood there? Well, we've won 3-0, but so what? Doesn't matter. It's all about the trophy at the end. Like,
exactly.
Really?
What's the point? Well, don't go there. Don't watch football then. It's a game. That's what they say. We've got a game to play on the weekend. It's a game, right? It doesn't mean you can't be passionate. It doesn't mean you can't love it. It doesn't mean you can't course through you in all the time. Like, I love it. I live it. I breathe it. But it has to be the journey.
Well, this will be interesting on the next one then. So number 4 is tactics or passion?
I'm a vibes guy.
You are a vibes guy.
I know, and I annoy my friends. My best mate's Tom Rosenthal, the actor and comedian Tom Rosenthal. Like, he's such a tactics guy, and he can't. My trouble is I'm such a vibes guy, and it's bad because I'll just go, Maddison's a better signing than Havertz. Don't know why we done it. We should have signed Maddison, because I've watched 2 games and Maddison scored a dodgy free kick, and I like, and he's just like, look at the stats, mate. But I'm very much a vibes guy, and maybe to my detriment a little bit. But I'm all about the passion.
Okay. Next one, pub or social media?
Oh, I mean, definitely pub. I've come off Twitter for the summer. Because it just depresses me too much. X, or I'm not going to call it X. It depresses me too much. I can't stand other fans and Arsenal fans. It's all fans who who treats signings like 3 points. Like, I cannot stand. It's like people go, Norgard, we signed Norgard and Kepa, and I'm like, what do you what? And that's honestly was a moment. I'm coming off it. Can't do it.
I'm sure that
Winds me up too much.
I've said this recently as well, that I'm sure there are some people out there who would, what they'd prefer is a perpetual transfer window and no football.
Yeah.
Where it's almost like a trading cards game, basically, is what they want. It's just
I get way
ridiculous.
more joy out of that. Oh,
I know.
God, I can't stand it. Yeah, pub, definitely pub.
Okay, next one. Watch on TV or in the ground?
In the ground,
But-
yes. In the ground, but I do. There is something nice about the thing is right. I've been working in theatre for the last couple of years, and it means that Sunday is my only day off. So, and I have a young child, so being able to watch the game whilst she's playing around or watching a bit of it, or even just sat watching her iPad whilst I watch the game for 2 hours, and then game off. I'm back being a dad and back having family time. I've been fortunate that the guy who sits next to me, he takes his brother along using my season ticket. So I love watching it in the ground. There's definitely no better feeling than watching it, than watching it in the ground. But I do value watching it at home as well.
Absolutely. Monday night football or match of the day?
Match of the day.
Yeah, me too.
But then now Gary's gone. I don't know. Gary's gone. Right, he went. But I just can't stand Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher's agendas. So I'm afraid it has to be a match of the day.
Yeah, and it's such a shame because actually, when Gary Neville was first on there, he was quite insightful. Recently retired, looked at it way more analytically than we were maybe used to. But it feels like Sky have gone, okay, lowest common denominator now.
It's clickbait. It's clickbait all the time, and they're both knowledgeable people. But it's clickbait, and it's annoyed me too much when they always set an agenda. I know every fan thinks that the media have got an agenda against them, but I do sometimes feel with Arsenal, it's like we're treated like we've been relegated, and it's like we're second in the Champions League semi-final. It's like Arsenal this year. I think Arteta should be worried about his position at this point. I'm like, what?
I know.
What are we talking about? He's like, good for him. Been at a top club, not won a trophy. We have won a trophy. So like it's just honestly like these guys, and it's whatever suits the agenda, and people buy into it because if you hate Arsenal, which seems to be a lot of other fans, it really feeds into, and that's another. I don't get the hatred of Arsenal. It's like what we're not the Chelsea that came with Abramovich. We're
there
not
is a long history of it. Yeah.
The Man United, you just went, Tottenham players are good, so we'll buy Berbatov. Cheers. We'll have Carrick. Thank you. Like I know there's a bit of that as now we're getting, because people, Declan Rice and stuff like that. But like, I don't understand this big hatred of Arsenal. But then maybe I wouldn't as an Arsenal fan.
Okay, next one. VAR in or VAR out?
VAR out. Never liked it. Knew it wouldn't work. Hate it. Get goal line technology, absolutely. And unless you can do offsides with
semi-automated offsides.
Semi-automated. If it works, fine. I'm like some massive cricket fan. Umpire's cool, does work. So if they can do that, fine. The rest of it, get rid of it. It changes your enjoyment of the game. I knew as soon as it came. I remember the first match. It was Liverpool West Ham in the FA Cup, and there was a goal, and we had to wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes, find out if it was a goal. Every time we score a goal in the ground now, I'm looking for the VAR.
Yeah.
Until I can fully celebrate. How is that how it should be? Get rid of it.
It's nonsense. Okay, Highbury or Emirates?
Highbury.
Absolutely. And then this one has really split people, which is why we've kind of put it last. But Champions League or Premier League?
Premier League.
See, me, Chris and Holly are usually on. We've said Premier League, but almost everyone else, Champions League. Why Premier League for you?
Because, listen, it'd be amazing to win the Champions League. But, there's the teams, when Liverpool won it, oh, God, don't put this clip out. I can't have Liverpool fans after me. But when Liverpool won it and they finished fourth, I'm talking like the sort of, the Istanbul and all that stuff. And amazing as it was, it's sort of just like I feel like the real measure of the team is the 38 game season. And like for me, it's all the rivalries you build throughout the season, the press conferences, all that stuff. Where like the Champions League, obviously it'd be amazing. But if I've got to pick, it's got to be Premier League.
Yeah, good. Well, we kind of agree. I think a lot of people are swayed by the fact that we haven't won the Champions League, and it's the one thing that they sort of want us to see. And that's not to say I don't want us to see us win it, but I tend to agree with you about the consistency of a team over a long period of time in a really competitive league as well.
Yeah.
PSG winning it when they've got the French title, that is their marker. I get that.
Of course. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, thank you so much for giving up your time to come on.
I hope I haven't waffled on too much. Thanks so much.
No, that's exactly what we want. Is there anything, I know you said earlier you can't talk about the project that's coming up next, but is there anything else that you want to plug, or where can our followers find you?
You can come find me on Instagram. I'm rarely on Twitter anymore, so you can come find me on Instagram or TikTok, where I've been making silly impressions videos, or just generally funny observations about my hilarious life. But yeah, no, come find me there.
Well, thank you for coming on to the North Bank, Luke Kempner. Thanks, you, everyone else who's out there that's been watching and listening. I've been your host, Steph, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Cheers.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app, and find us on your socials at North Bank Pod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by the Podcast Company.